Warning, this podcast has stories of real-life events and true crime that happens every day. These stories may contain adult language and graphic or disturbing details not suitable for everyone. Listener discretion is advised.
132 in Bush, I've got him at gunpoint. They're pulling them out.
10-1-1. Advise ready for camp.
God!
Welcome to another episode of War Stories. I'm Tom.
And I'm Chuck.
And I am very excited. I'm sorry I'm going to miss locker room this week. Well, I guess it's past tense. I'm sorry I missed locker room last week.
He tried to come in.
Live. You guys are recording it live, but I will not be there tonight because I have a prior commitment, and so does Matt. So I guess in the past, you are handling it, you and Marco and producer Dylan. So great job.
I hope you guys all liked the show that we just put on with me, Marco, and Dylan. I mean, it was an amazing show. I think it was a good show. It was a huge show.
Huge.
I'm trying to learn my Donald Trump accents, just getting a little bit.
And so here we are for this week's episode of War Stories, and I am super excited about this interview. Not only is it a very we love having high-ranking people because we get to ask questions that we don't normally get to ask, but also we've only had 2 Vietnam veterans on this show ever, and so here we go with our 3rd Vietnam veteran. And so I want to kind of jump right into it. Chuck, why don't you give us a little bit about our guest today?
We got reached out to by I'm assuming the publicist, and their client is a retired United States Marine Corps Lieutenant Colonel Tom Williams. He is currently promoting his book, Doorsteps of Hell. It's the first book in the series, so that's great. It basically says we follow his entry into North Georgia College, as it was here that Tom discovered his true value and indomitable spirit. Later, at his Marine Corps OCS, Tom graduated platoon honor man. So I'm assuming it's about his life and all that stuff, and I can't wait to hear it from Tom. But it was regarding the Vietnam War of 1969 through 1970. He was an infantry platoon commander, later a recon platoon commander. It's about his enthralling account of what really took place on the battlefield, the hardships, the misery, the deprivation of amenities, and the pearls, the bloodshed, but more importantly, the lessons learned. So, I mean, there's a lot more to read, but holy crap, that sounds...
Why read it when we have the man himself? Welcome, Colonel.
Exactly.
Well, good day to you guys. Good day from Australia.
Yeah, so you've moved there, huh?
Well, when I retired, they made me an offer I couldn't refuse as an advisor trainer in Saudi Arabia. I did 6 years in Saudi Arabia. They tried to kill me. Al Qaeda tried to kill me. They killed 10 of us with a bomb. I then, after 6 years, I moved over to Afghanistan. More of the same. I reckon you could classify me as an action junkie on steroids.
I was going to say, the more people try to kill you, the more you know you're doing your job right.
Well, it was one of those things where I received a phone call, and the caller had been my recon company commander in Vietnam, Charlie Kershaw. He says, there's an assignment here, there's a billet here, it's got your name written all over it. Can I throw you into the pot? I had a job on Monday. That was Friday.
Wow. I mean,
wow.
Things move fast when you're a man of action, right?
Well, that was exactly the nickname I had in college. In college, my classmates called me Action, and then behind my back in Vietnam, my platoon members called me Action, and I only discovered that when I started reconnecting to write this first book. Yeah,
Wow.
Second lieutenants are dangerous to themselves.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah.
But
good old
I had been an aspirant to be in the military since I was a boy. My father fought in the China, Burma, India campaign. He was my adopted father. And I heard all of his war stories. It was exciting. It was travel. It was danger. And I've always lived on the outer edge of the envelope.
Wow.
Yeah, well, there's no better place to be on the envelope, if you ask me.
I think it's crazy. You're Lieutenant Colonel. My grandfather, who flew in the China-Burma conflict, World War II, and all that stuff, he was Lieutenant Colonel when he retired. It's crazy.
Yeah,
you don't meet too many lieutenant colonels.
I had the opportunity in 1972. I was at a cocktail party because I left Vietnam after my recon assignment. I went to Kenneoy. I was at a cocktail party on a Friday night. The chief of staff of the brigade, the 1st Marine Brigade, approached me and said, "Tom, the world's going to shit in Vietnam, and we need you back over there. You're an aerial observer." Because between after I left Vietnam, I got my AO qualifications. So on Sunday, I was on an airplane back into Vietnam, and en route, we got hijacked to go to Hanoi. Long story short, we killed the bastard on the airplane, made a emergency landing at Tan Son Nhut, and the pilot had a security agent that was on the airplane, shot him with a .357.
So hold on.
I don't want to have a long story short on that one. Wow.
A beat for a second.
Yeah.
You guys had someone on your plane who tried to hijack it?
Yeah.
And kill you guys?
That's correct. It was a 7 Pan Am. You can look it up. Pan Am 747 out of Honolulu, was stopped in Manila, and he got on. The hijacker, a Vietnamese student, being expelled from America. I won't go into that part of the story. He snatched a woman and a child, said he had a bomb. He had a ball of aluminum, and in the aluminum, all that was in there were lemons. He was killed for a clutch of lemons wrapped in tinfoil, but the pilot couldn't take a chance. Long story short, he tricked the hijacker into thinking we were over North Vietnam, out by the border, the Laotian border, and made an emergency landing into Tan Son Nhut. He tried to negotiate with him. He wouldn't negotiate. The pilot tackled him. I'm over by him now. Everybody's leaving the airplane. I thought I could help because I speak Vietnamese. The bomb popped out. I grabbed it. I threw it to another passenger on the other side of the airplane, and he threw it out into the median alongside the airstrip. About that time, the hijacker cut the pilot's hand with a knife. Pilot jumped up, told the man with the pistol, "Kill the son of a bitch," and picked him up and threw him out the door.
Okay,
Ooh,
so here we
shit.
go. This is Pan Am Flight 841, originating in San Francisco, stopped off in Honolulu, and it says, this is, I'm reading this directly. About 45 minutes after the plane departed Manila with 153 passengers aboard, the hijacker, a South Vietnamese native, passed a note to the flight attendant that said, "You are going to fly me to Hanoi, and this airplane will be destroyed when we get there." The note was conveyed to the captain. He had, I guess the guy had been arrested for occupying the South Vietnamese consulate in New York. He was expelled from the U.S., and he wanted to hijack the flight as an act of revenge. When the pilot refused to reroute the flight, he wrote a note in his own blood that said, "This is how serious I am." So there was also a retired San Francisco police officer on the flight who had kept his .357 in the cockpit for safekeeping.
This is back in the day when you can check your gun with the fucking pilot.
Yeah.
Hey, sir. Hey, I'm a cop. Go ahead. Hold that for me in case things get a little bit sketchy. I'll come back up here. I'll take this gun. I'll pistol whip the shit out of this guy.
Yeah. And so the pilot, like he said, landed at the airport in Saigon under the guise of needing to refuel. Pilot walked back to the cabin to speak with a hijacker. Hijacker was agitated, threatened to detonate the bomb unless the aircraft immediately departed for Hanoi, claiming to have some trouble understanding him. The pilot asked him to lean closer and then put the hijacker in a chokehold.
Yes.
2 passengers, we know who those are, knocked the package from his hand.
Oh my God.
And pinned him to the floor. The pilot signaled the officer who shot him 5 times. They carried his body to the rear exit of the aircraft and threw it onto the tarmac. The 135 surviving passengers and 17 other crew members evacuated the aircraft. Only one reported injury other than the hijacker, and that was of an Air Force lieutenant colonel, a passenger on the flight who broke his leg exiting the evacuation chute.
So for those listening at home, that cop, that NYPD cop, unloaded his full cylinder. Oh, San Francisco cop unloaded his full cylinder because I'm assuming is a 38 special or something like that.
6 shot. No, it could have been a 6 shot. So it could have been a 6 shot.
Okay, so probably a 6. So he saved one. He saved one.
Well, you never know.
Whole cylinder gone.
Captain Vaughn was the captain of the flight, and I participated in the debrief in the terminal. I walked up to him and I shook his hand and I said, I didn't want to go to Hanoi anyway.
You know what's amazing about this episode, Chuck, is we're literally 12 minutes in. That's not the story he came here to tell, and it's still already amazing.
That was just, I was on a civilian flight.
But that story is the opening chapter of book 2, because I returned to Vietnam on 2 days' notice, and I flew 190 missions with the Vietnamese Air Force because I speak Vietnamese, and was made commander of the AO detachment in Hue City.
So now, would you then classify yourself as what they call a shit magnet, where trouble just follows you?
I don't know about that, sir. I go to the sound of gunfire. There are stories in my first book. I didn't hesitate. You can't hesitate on the battlefield. You have to act.
Go.
And that's what makes it so damn dangerous. Okay, you make a quick assessment and you move and you do what you think is the best thing to do.
Right. And what is it? I think it was Patton who said, a good plan violently executed now is better than a perfect plan executed next week.
That's correct. That's absolutely correct. I mean, one of the first times that happened to me was the 3rd Platoon of Fox Company, 2nd Battalion, 5th Marines. That's who I belonged to. I was the 1st Platoon commander. The 3rd Platoon commander had an OP on a river in the area called Arizona. That is the Doorsteps of Hell, the Arizona. All night long, I heard that OP, that observation post reporting enemy movement past his position, only yards away. When the sun came up, I asked my commander, Captain Ken Furr, K.R. Furr, now retired Colonel U.S. Marines, and he's a little old winemaker in North Carolina. Okay, now, I said, do I continue the mission you gave me, or do I go to the river? There was a pause. He said, continue your mission. I stepped off with my platoon, Oscar Mike, on the move. No sooner did I get my people deployed on the move than I heard the gunfire. I gave the command to move towards the river, I reported to my commander what I was doing because I knew the terrain. I knew I could isolate the objective area from the high ground while the 3rd platoon fought it out in what became known as the cornfield fight. I got there and immediately they shot my radio operator in the neck, standing next to me. I continued to hold that ground while they fought it out in the rice paddies. I couldn't take anybody under fire because I couldn't distinguish friend or foe. And that was the first time I did what I just said. You move to the sound of gunfire.
Yeah, and that's so it's interesting because
Yes,
that
exactly.
philosophy.
There was a pause.
Oh, yeah. I was gonna say that philosophy has carried over into it was a big part of law enforcement early on, and then it kind of went away with the advent of SWAT and some of those things. And so the average street cop almost forgot that they were a war fighter too on the streets of, the cities they're sworn to protect. But now, that mindset has at least during my area of police work was heavily beaten into our heads, which is you're there to protect innocent lives. You're there to defend. You're there to secure safety for those who can't secure it for themselves. When you hear something bad happening, when you hear gunfire, you don't run away from it. You run towards it.
Well, I've had a couple of other podcasts, and I've made lectures to cadet corps. And last year, I was at North Georgia College in Dahlonega, Georgia, and you may know it's co-located with the Ranger mountain phase of the Ranger course. And so we used to piggyback on some of their training capabilities there. But I asked the cadet corps leadership, how many of you are hunters? There were no hands raised. I said, do you realize that you are joining a hunting club? And if you're not a better hunter than your adversary, I mean, they're critters. And you're hunting critters. Close with and kill or capture the enemy. That is your mission as a company grade officer, 2nd lieutenant, 1st lieutenant, or captain. But never forget, and I wanted to emphasize this, never forget that once you have closed with and killed and or captured him, it is as much your responsibility to protect your prisoner as it was your intent to kill him in the first place. And that's how we ended up with Callie. And I think we all know the story of Callie.
Yeah, it's interesting because as we talked about, we've had other Vietnam veterans on the show. Not many, but it's as we know, sometimes it's hard to get veterans to want to talk about their experiences in Vietnam. But we did speak to an aircraft pilot who flew gunships, and he had at the end we asked him about, because we had a corpsman and we had this aircraft pilot on, and he says, I don't have any compunctions. I don't have any issues. I don't feel bad. He says, they tried to kill me. I killed them first. And people forget that there's a satisfaction in that you don't have to be ashamed of.
Well, Dad told me, my father emphasized the day I left to go to Vietnam, there is no place for second place in war.
Right.
Winning is everything. It 100%. Is the only thing.
Yeah. My dad told me because my dad was a police officer and I became a police officer, and he told me, son, the only fair fight is the fight you lose. And it stuck with me my entire career that it doesn't matter what it takes to win. You just win.
Yeah. There's no rules.
I reckon in my youth, I was an abandoned child. My mother remarried a major in the Air Force. And the next thing you know, I'm in Morocco. In those days, it was French Morocco. Well,
Oh,
if you
right.
know
Yeah,
the
yeah.
sir.
No, I was just saying, yeah, you're right. I remember
Yeah.
French
Well,
had it. Yeah.
so while I'm a boy living in Morocco from the ages of 6 to 9, all my playmates are Arabs and French kids. So I learned those two languages. But the point I want to make is uh, I was caught in the middle of my first shooting conflict as a student on a bus. The Arabs were revolting against the French for their independence.
Oh my
So
gosh.
my experience in warfare goes all the way back to when I was 6, and I'll turn 80 in December.
Well,
Wow. So
congratulations.
you were basically just born into chaos and followed you around, and then you just decided to join the Marine Corps, and we all know shit magnets. Hello.
Yeah.
They're always the first in a conflict, and they get put in the shittiest spots to take over ground, right? Then they bring in the
Right.
army, and the army is an occupying force, and that holds it so that the Marines can continue to push. At least that was the original model for it. You know, they say that the president's pit bull is the United States Marine Corps. And I'm 100% in agreement to that because I like being called a pit bull. I'm sure you probably do as well. But you have been in this shit since 6 years old, even when flying to Vietnam on a commercial airliner, you get involved in a death, a hijacking, an attempted hijacking, where the toxic masculinity of what the people call so today is toxic masculinity saves the fucking day because the pilot, because I couldn't imagine that happening to today's pilots, you know, the pilots of yesterday were hardcore, and then they had badass people on the plane getting ready to handle business as
Yeah,
they
you know the
should to
best part
keep
about
their people safe.
you know the best part about toxic masculinity? It
No.
saves lives and liberates countries.
Yeah,
Yep.
dude,
Yes,
warfighter.
sir.
You're a warfighter.
Yeah.
Damn.
See,
I can't even
but
imagine what.
but I think what we have now is unlike when I grew up, where there were hard times. I was
Sure.
born in 44. The war was just ending. We were just coming out of a depression. The farm I worked on, because I was handed around, my mother had to work to support us both. So I worked on a family farm outside of Statesboro, Georgia, as a little guy. We were using mules, not
Yeah.
tractors,
Right.
but mules. So
Right.
I have managed to live from the era of mule power to rocket power, you know?
Right. I mean, the America had just come out of the Dust Bowl,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
Like people forget the Dust Bowl was 1930 to 1940. We're talking Grapes of Wrath, you know, John Steinbeck, and then we go to war in World War II from 40 to 40. Go try and find a car, 1942 or 1943 car. They don't exist, right? Because nobody's making cars. They were making tanks. They were making stuff for the war effort, right?
Oh yeah.
And so you're born into an era where they just come out of the Depression, they just come out of the Dust Bowl. Times were tough. And the message that parents had for their children was, yeah, life sucks, get a helmet, work harder, no one cares.
Yeah.
There's a difference in the work ethic, the mindset of today's youngsters as compared to what we were like. I was,
Right.
even as a single digit midget, I was expected to bring home a string of fish. They would be in the cotton fields, the cornfields, what have you. I would go fishing. My very first kill was a cottonmouth moccasin trying to get one of my fish off of my string. Ain't no
Wow.
way you gonna have my fish at 6 years old.
That's amazing.
Wow.
So now you
That's
joined the military. You joined the Marine. So how did you end up going from, you know, obviously you had a military father in the man that took you in and married your mother. And I'm sure that had an effect on you, right? You said you wanted to go into the military from a very young age.
For sure.
What was it that made you join the Marine Corps, and why did you do it when you did?
We were all going to war in those years, 1960s. The question was, what service do you want to go in? I was at North Georgia College. I was in the ROTC program. If you attended North Georgia College in those years as a male, you had to be in the ROTC program. I fell in love with the adventure, the training, the camaraderie. My best friends on the face of this earth, most of them wear an Army uniform. I decided of all my close friends, about 6 of us decided to go to the Marine Corps. We had good role models in the Cadet Corps from the Marine Corps, and the Army just seemed to be too large and too impersonal. I was notified last night. As much as I say that, I love what the Army does. I love what we in the Marine Corps do. I was notified last night that I will receive the Order of the St. Maurice.
Oh, wow.
And I will receive that in the next few days by mail. I had no idea that would happen.
Wow.
So I pay great respect to the United States Army because they kick-started me in my journey in the military service.
Wow. Can I just say one thing for those listening that may not know what the Order of St. Maurice is? For those listening, the Order of St. Maurice is a prestigious award presented by the National Infantry Association of the United States in conjunction with the Chief of Infantry. So this is not like a light award. This is a very prestigious and very respectable and important award, just for those that are listening that may not know what it is.
Yeah, and if you look at some of the people in the history that have received this award, it is a who's who of warfighters. Captain Dale Dye, right? Captain Dale Dye received it. There was Harold Moore received it. Hal Moore received it. John Abbott, I think I always say it wrong. Abizad received it. Like it is a Colin Powell received it. Ross Perot, if you can believe that, received it. Like it's a very prestigious award. So congratulations, sir. It sounds like it's well deserved from everything we've heard.
Well, I think the reviews that I've received, the president of the United States Army Infantry Association liked my book so well, he gave me a review to die for. A friend of mine who's a brigadier general and retired of the French Foreign Legion, he gave me a great review, as did a Lieutenant General Coffey from the United States Army. The point I want to make is that my book is written to provide not only lessons learned for survival on the battlefield and for success in the military, but also lessons learned in life. I grew up in the school of hard knocks in the beginning, and even when I had a father, he was a pill. He demanded. I had so much energy that everywhere we moved, Morocco, South Carolina, he would rent a farm and put me to work because I had so damn much energy. He had to harness that energy.
But you know what? Nowadays they just take somebody with that energy and they medicate him. Back then they said, you know what? You have all this energy. Let's put it to work. And you learn something. You learn to focus. You learn hard work. You learn to work ethic. You learn toughness. They didn't say there's something wrong with you. Here's a pill. they said, let's just turn you into a tornado of awesome.
Yeah, harnessing your abilities and training those abilities to give you success later.
Well, anything that doesn't kill you only makes you stronger.
Yeah,
100%.
and then you get
your
to kill
book,
it.
Yeah. So your book is The Doorsteps into Hell, right? And that was
right.
the area in Vietnam that you were just speaking about. What were some of those experiences like being in Vietnam in that time? What was it like?
Well, I would have to say that growing up with the father that I had, Morocco, then going to North Georgia College, I could not have been better prepared. By the time I got to OCS in the Marine Corps, uh, I was prepared to go. The experiences in Vietnam were nothing more than extended training of what I had gone through at North Georgia, then OCS, then the basic school. It was an extension course, Vietnam was.
Right.
Now,
wow.
When I reported in, the commanding general of the division had us 6 or 7 of us in his office, and he said, "Lieutenants, where do you want to be assigned?" And I had the presence of forethought that I knew what my survival skills were, and that I would be much better served by being in the bush, in the rice paddies, in the mountains, than I would have been in the city. So I chose 5th Marines.
Wow.
Every day, well, the first day I reported, there were no openings for first lieutenants. The next morning, there were 2. Both
Oh,
lieutenants,
geez.
both lieutenants had lost both legs.
Oh.
I took over my platoon. About 3 days later, I took my first casualties. Another booby trap. Took out 3 Marines, actually 4, one standing next to me. I took a piece of shrapnel, but it was so minor. It was a bee sting. I didn't need any medication. But the others lost fingers and eyes. No lives were lost that day.
And that you said that was within your first
Wow.
week, right?
That was, excuse me, say that again.
That was within the first week.
Oh, it was within the first 3 days.
You're right.
Yeah. And it was
Wow.
like that. It was like that for the company, not necessarily my platoon. Every day there were casualties from booby traps, bullet wounds. Foot immersion was a problem. You really, really had to pay
Right, yep.
close attention to your Marines' feet. They never wanted to take their feet out of their boots. They didn't want to die without their boots on.
Right.
And our blessing were 2 things when it came to medical. The corpsmen, they weren't angels, but they sure as hell came close to being angels, as I say in my book. And a antiseptic ointment that I used, which I still keep it in my doc kit. When I was back in the States last year, I bought 6 tubes of it and brought it home because you can't buy it here. Bacitration antiseptic ointment.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a it's a lifesaver.
Great
It's
tip,
crazy how
boys. Go out and get that.
it's
Sir?
crazy how things you learned in the Marine Corps are still carrying over into your life years and years after the fact. It's wild. And there just some of these things that you take for granted in the United States, and you can't get it over in Australia, and you get it here. I mean, and these things just carry with you. So people who are going through the military that think they're fresh in, because I know a lot of guys that were in the military, especially in the Marine Corps, that hated their lives, right? They didn't like it. And,
Right.
but then years later, they take those things that they obtained, those knowledge and those skills that they thought were BS when they were going through, and it carries on to the rest of their life. And then they become the most diehard vets that I've ever met. I've seen a bunch of them that I served with, and they did a great job where they're in, but they hated their life because it was hard, right? And
Well,
you grew up in a hard
well,
life,
the
and
one thing that most people do not realize, except those of us who were there, was there was
mm,
no such thing as a bath. No,
no,
there was no such thing as a PX or a commissary. You you didn't bathe, you didn't wear underwear. You went for days, weeks, months without a proper shower or a bath. You didn't go
mhm,
back to some rear area to do all of that. You were in the field 24/7. Uh, I think when I went home after my first tour, half the dogs in the county were trying to catch me because I stunk. It was still coming out of my pores. Uh,
wow.
Wow.
you know,
I can attest to that smell. For only being in 6 months, I was in 29 Palms, and you really don't get to shower much out there. And if you're going to wash anything, you're going to wash it in a sink with some soap and some water by your hand, and hopefully get all the suds out. Because if you don't, it's going to
that,
leave to rot, and it's going to leave to hives and rashes and things like that. So you stayed in your stuff until maybe you washed it out with some water, so no soap, so you could get some of that gunk off. But let me tell you how many things you throw away when you are getting ready to leave, because your socks can stand on their own, your camis can stand on their own. It is a legit smell, and it's a feeling that you will never forget. Um, and that's exactly what he's describing. And back then, there weren't many ways to wash, a lot of hand washing going on. There's definitely probably wasn't any washing machines in Vietnam. I would
Right.
assume in the field, it's a jungle environment. So if you're washing anything, it's in a creek or a stream. You're not using potable water for that because that's for drinking, you know?
well,
Yeah.
you make a commitment when you join the service to make a difference. It's
Mhm.
what Kennedy said. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. I went
Right.
there. I went there to make a difference. I
Yeah.
thought we went there to win. The politicians
Yep.
are great cheerleaders and they're eager to get the military involved, but then they don't let the military make the decisions that need to be made. I've
Mhm.
written 2 articles and I've actually written 3 papers on all of what we're talking about. I'll gladly send them to you, Chuck. Why We Failed in Afghanistan is a good
Absolutely.
paper.
Mm.
And the reason why is why were we involved in Vietnam? And it goes from World War II to the present day. That paper
Wow.
is about 26 pages long. It's a chapter in book 2, actually.
Wow.
And I take it from the charge of the Light Brigade, the
Oh,
reason
wow.
why. The
Mm.
reason why.
Wow.
Ours is not the reason why, but to do or die. And then the third paper that's been published in the Gazette, the Marine Corps Gazette, is primacy of coalition warfare. We who had served in Vietnam were now in leadership positions as lieutenant colonels, colonels, and generals during the first Gulf War, 90 to
Right.
91. The mindset of us who had been
Mhm.
there was never again. Just like the Israelis, never
Right.
again.
Right.
All right.
Mhm.
So there was we were allowed to execute that war the way we knew it needed to be executed to walk away as winners, not just walk away.
Right. You weren't going to do it again. Nope. We've seen that movie. So now tell me about this young man right here. This young man. You go back and you're a captain and you get embedded with the Bird Dog Squadron, and you fought in the 1972's Easter Offensive.
That's correct.
So tell us, I mean, that was no joke. That was the People's Army of Vietnam against the ARVN, right? And it was like half the year. This offensive was like March to October or something, right? So tell us about that.
It went to January of 73. Okay, that was why I was on the 747 that got hijacked. I was on my way back. That was my welcome flight. Okay.
Welcome back to Vietnam.
Yeah. Okay. So I go into Da Nang. I fly 7 missions, 7 5-hour missions, and it is a cauldron of destruction. You've got divisions upon divisions of Vietnam armor, infantry, artillery, anti-aircraft. I was taking 12.7, 23 millimeter, 37 millimeter, 57 millimeter, and on one occasion I took 100 millimeter. That's like a flaming basketball as it comes past the cockpit. I took holes in my aircraft, but thank God my thin-skinned vehicle, this two-legged vehicle, didn't take any hits. Okay. I then, because I speak Vietnamese, they gave me command of the AO section at Hue City. I flew 183 missions with the Vietnamese. 16 of those missions I flew with an Air Force lieutenant colonel. That came about when I was given a mission to go to Laos and the A Shaw Valley, do a reconnaissance of some grid squares. I did the reconnaissance. I came back to Hue City. I landed actually in Hue City. There's a short 2,000-foot runway inside Hue City Citadel. I thought I was going to be a permanent fixture on the far wall when we finally came to a stop. Thank God.
Wow.
I went in, I briefed all the heavy metal, all the general officers, and after the briefing, they asked me questions about movement and equipment and that sort of thing. And then after that, a lieutenant colonel, an Air Force lieutenant colonel, approached me and challenged my report. And I came back at him. I said, "Sir, are you challenging the truthfulness of my report?" He said, "Well, you're the only one reporting this kind of movement in this particular area." I then asked him, "Do you know how to fly an O-1 Bird Dog?" He said, "I sure do." I said, "Come with me, sir. I'm going to show you." We went to Phu Bai Airfield, which is about 8 miles south of Hue City. We kicked the tires, we lit the fires, and I flew him out. We flew out to Laos, and I started pointing the enemy out to him. Well, having never been on the ground, he didn't know what to look for, where to look, or how to look. So I had to pick out some terrain features, some key terrain features by color and size or whatever. And I said, put a rocket in there between those features, and when they move, you will see the movement. Sure enough, he put a 2.75 rocket in, and they scattered like quail. Well, now he is now that airplane is like my suit jacket. He is on them like a damn bulldog on a pork chop. He is after them. All right, he kills them. Now we go and find another target. I found a road coming out of the Ashaw Valley on a ridge, and I saw 3 black specks. That's all they were. 3 black specks on a terracotta colored road. And I pulled my glasses up, and I could tell they were humans, but they were squatting. They were stopped. That's the best defense when you're in the open. Just stop.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew what I was seeing. He still couldn't see them. I can't believe to this day he couldn't see them.
His eyes weren't trained like yours.
And so I found up in the jungle above the road some more terrain features. I said, from there down to the road, put a missile in there. He put a missile in, and they started running from right to left. There was no place to go. There was no place down or up for at least a kilometer. He then saw them. He came in, and now I think he's got target fixation. Do you know what target fixation is?
Yeah.
It's the only thing you can see.
Yeah, well, you not only kill the target, you run into it.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
But he delivered the rocket within, I mean, it was the closest hit I've ever seen. He hit right between their legs, blew all 3 of them to hell. And then your mind works quick. Well, now, I said to myself, what the hell is he going to do now? And he just turned that airplane straight up, and you're only yards, feet, inches away from the jungle treetops. He climbs up the mountain, and then he just rolls it over, and we went away.
Wow.
Now,
Damn.
I did 16 flights with him out of my last 21. Every day he would call me and say, "Can I fly you today? Can I fly you today?"
Can I get into some action? So let me get this straight. You were briefing this guy, right? This other officer, you're briefing him, and he's like, "No, BS. There's no way." And you're like, "Yeah, hold my beer. Let me go and show you." You take him up, you go and show him, and then you start sending rockets down on what you're supposed to be showing him. And then you're like, hold on, that's enemy troops. We'll just send a rocket over there. Boom. And he's like, oh, okay, let's go get the next one. And then you start just hitting enemy positions, and then you guys fly back. And he's like, I believe you now.
Yeah. Well, it took me 3 hours to train him. Okay.
Yeah,
Right.
but then he got the bug. Sounds like he got the bug.
Well, hey, you know what his name was?
What?
Yeah, what's that?
Lieutenant Colonel Tom Williams. Tom Williams in the front seat, Tom Williams in the back seat.
That's
No
hilarious. That's I mean, I guess if your name is Tom Williams, maybe it's Tom's, because I'm an action junkie too, man. The most fun I ever had on the police department was working undercover, hanging from the long line of a helicopter, inserting into marijuana grows, flying. You know, people are telling me, you flew on a rope underneath the helicopter, and I was like, yeah, and they're like, that's crazy. I'm like, no, I'd do it again in a hot second. It's and the second most fun is going through a door on a search warrant, not knowing who's on the other side of it. You know?
Oh boy, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Well, it takes a certain kind of person to do those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, crazy person.
And survive.
Yeah.
You know what's crazy is that
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, I always had that mindset, right? And when I got into law enforcement, even when I was in the Marine Corps, I always wanted to be the first in a door. Every time we were doing training, I was like, oh, let me be first in the stick. Then it transferred over into law enforcement, and I would never even have to fight anyone. I was like, can I be first in the stick? They're like, yeah, absolutely. And I was like, hell yeah, this is awesome. And I would always try to be the first one through that door, or the second once I got a little bit more important and a little bit more seniority.
It's interesting that you use that analogy, because I've always said, and I've said in my book, the easiest job you will ever have is going to war. Now that sounds strange, but trust me, it's just what you're talking about. There are a lot of people who are wannabes, okay?
Right.
But once you get into the nut crushing, it becomes a different. I mean, now we're talking getting down to the nuts and bolts of being a Marine, leading by example, and doing the hard work. You know, unfortunately, I've managed to capture all the enemy I've ever engaged. But the worst enemy, are you familiar with the book Once an Eagle?
No.
I've never read it. No.
Once an Eagle is a classic story starting in about World War I through World War II. And it's the infighting amongst backstabbing, if you will, the apple polishing within, in this case, was the Army. You had Sam Damon and Massingale. One was the pretty boy, preening peacock. The other one was the warfighter. And it's that story. And that story still exists today in all of our services. In the Marine Corps, I call them minnows. Minnows. You know what a minnow is, right?
Yeah. I mean, I know what a minnow the fish is.
No, how about Marine in name only?
Oh, okay. You're going deep with some analogies.
Wow. Okay.
Before my time.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, so we always said the only person I didn't want to be on the stack was I didn't want to be third, because the third man in is the likeliest to get shot. First guy has the element of surprise. Second guy, he's bringing up his weapon. The third guy is the one where he's actually on target. So, when you're coming through that door, I'd rather be first, number one, because you got the element of surprise. Number two, there's nobody in front of you that could get scared and stop and hold the rest of the stack up. Because for us, if you stood in the doorway, you were going to get trampled. There was nobody we were not going to wait.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that mentality is like, I don't want anybody in front of me that's going to stop. I don't want to have to worry. Like, there were certain guys, and I'm sure you had this too. There were certain guys, if you knew they were next to you, if you knew they were in front of you, you could count on it. You knew they were going to do the right thing. You knew where their mind was at. I imagine, to use sports as an analogy, because sometimes I think sports can be very analogous for war in the spirit of what your mindset, you go, you charge, you advance, you attack. And that camaraderie, that mindset, but also, a really good, I'm a hockey fan, a really good line in hockey. They don't have to think about what the guys on the ice are doing. They can pass to an area of the ice and they know their partner is there, right?
Yeah.
Right, because that's what they play and they practice, and that's their play, and they know that,
and they get to know each other, right? A good warfighter, a good soldier, a good cop, a good warrior, when he's with his battle buddies, he knows what they're thinking. They know what he's thinking. There's not a lot of talking. It's just doing. And
well, that is a great analogy. I love that analogy. And the reason I love it so much is I have fallen in love. Living here in Australia, I love watching the rugby league.
Okay,
league. Rugby league is like combat. Pressure.
Yes.
They will pass the ball and never look because they know their mate is there.
Yeah.
Left or right, it is an amazing game. What I like too about it is it's 80 minutes of full-on, no pads, combat, 15-minute break between 40-minute first half, second half, and it is game on from the minute it starts.
Well, not to digress into, this is not a sports podcast, but I'll say this, because my grandfather was a bombardier in World War II, and he was in the Royal Air Force. He was a bombardier on a Lancaster, or I'm sorry, a Lancaster, as he called it. And he's Brit, and to him rugby was what he played. I still have his rugby sweater, right? And he moved to the U.S. He moved to the U.S. in the 60s when a young burgeoning sports league called the NFL was starting to come into its own. And he had refereed rugby. And he told me when I was a young man, he would watch football. And he says, when I first came to this country in the 60s, they asked me if I wanted to if I would be interested in refereeing football games and eventually, potentially reffing NFL games. And I said, no, those guys are a bunch of wimps. Look at all the pads. Look at all the breaks they take.
Those pads were leather helmets at the time.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
No, I think they had transitioned to plastic, but they had that one guard across it was like the very beginning.
What's that gonna do?
And he was like, no, this isn't, and I joke because as a hockey fan, I'm with you, right? Hockey, when the puck drops, like you get 3 20-minute periods. You still play for an hour, you get 3 20-minute periods. The most a hockey player will play, a long shift for a hockey player is over a minute, right? When they're on the ice. But you substitute in real time. There are no whistles. The only time you whistle is when there's a fight or when somebody gets hit with a stick or somebody gets, but there's hockey players that go off and they get their femur broken. They come back there. Soccer players pretend to be injured. Hockey players pretend to be fine, right? And it's go, go, go. I calculated in football, American football, how long in a 15-minute quarter they're actually playing football, and it's on average about 3 to 3.5 minutes of actual playing, and the rest of the time is walking around and figuring out what they're going to do next. I get the strategy, but I'm with you. That rugby charge.
I catch static as an American. I catch static all the time, making the comparison between NFL and rugby. And those are the two things I catch the most. One, why does it take you so long to play a game? And two, what's all this pads all about? They'll go,
I love football. I played football. I played after high school. I love it, right? And it has some of the pansiest rules nowadays. It is so crazy. Even their kickoff now, you can't even run. You used to like run down and try to beat and have your gunners run down and try to beat the guy to catch the ball. So as soon as he caught it, he doesn't fair catch it and you can just cream him, right? Now you have to wait until he catches the ball, and then he has this 20-yard red zone thing that he can catch the ball in, and you can't touch him until he catches the ball. You can't even start running until he catches the ball. Once he catches the ball, you can take off running, and it's to help prevent injuries and CTE and things like that. And I get it, right? Because dudes are running like 22 miles an hour down
Take
the
off
field.
The pads. They won't get concussions.
No, because they won't hit as hard, right? And you just see all these new rules, and I'm like, damn. And you look at rugby, right? And rugby is, like you said, we say constant pressure. It's war. It's no pads. It's American, or not American grit. It's just male grit or female grit if you're on the female side, and they still hit hard as shit. And it's just this constant pressure. And I look back at the analogy you guys made towards war, and it's the same, because if you stop for 1 second entering a room, like if you would stop in rugby, running through the line or running around people with the ball, you're going to get destroyed. You're going to get hurt.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. You got to keep the kinetic movement moving. You can't stop.
I was shot off a stump one day.
Even if someone drops you. I love it.
Go ahead.
Is that?
Go ahead, Colonel.
You want me to continue?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I was shot off a stump one day. I put my platoon on their bellies. I'm waiting for a platoon to come up on my left. I went behind my lines. I sat down on a blown off tree stump, and there was a big bomb crater behind it. And across the rice paddy in the dark tree line, I could see the flicker. Well, that fast, the bullets just ricocheted all around me, between my legs, on either side of my legs, and I did a backflip into the bomb crater. When I looked up, I could see all my Marines turned around, and I could read it on their face. The lieutenant's done got his ass shot. Well, I didn't get touched. I cleaned the barrel of my rifle, and we assaulted that damn wood line, and we got him. Yeah, I think the one that got me took it through the belly. It came out his ass. I picked him up. He was still living. I threw him over my shoulder and continued to fight.
Yeah, I mean, and that's so as we talk about the sports metaphor, I will say this because I know we're running out of time. One of the things that is also the same is the ball, right? The ball is the objective. That's the score. Getting the ball downfield is the objective, right? In war, advancing is the objective, just like in rugby. And when you pitch the ball, when you toss the ball, when you hand off the ball to your teammate, knowing they're going to be there, you may know that you're pitching or tossing the ball to your teammate because you're about to get creamed. And you'll take the hit. You'll get creamed. And you'll move the objective forward, and you will sacrifice knowing that the objective will still go on without you.
Yeah.
And that's the spirit that we're talking about. That's the, that's that fighting spirit of the mission. What is it? Was it mission first, people always, right?
Yep.
Not everybody's coming home, but damn it, we're going to get it done.
Yeah. It's crazy. We started this podcast with you on your way into Vietnam. Attempted hijacking occurs, and you guys thwart it. And we end with you almost dying and getting blown off and shot off a stump, right, into a crater. Yeah. And you're like, holy crap. And then you continue to assault forward. I can only imagine.
We don't know what he can imagine. He froze up. Well, Colonel, I will say this. Where can people find your book, and where can people find you?
Well, I have a website. That's the book.
Yes, we have a picture of it right here. Let me put that up for you.
Yeah. It comes in hard copy. It comes in paperback. It comes in ebook. I've also extracted from this book all the lessons learned, and they're in booklets. So that's it. So that the individual soldier or Marine or small unit leader can take the concentrated lessons learned out of that book and put it in their pocket and carry it with them, because there's many a time in the field where you don't have a lot to do between training events.
Sure.
And extemporaneous, or what we used to call hip pocket training. You can give hip pocket training using my little lessons learned books, but you can find it on my website.
And what's the website?
www.heartofamarineseries.com.
And this is book 1 of the Heart of a Marine book series. Right. It is Doorsteps of Hell by Lieutenant Colonel Tom Williams, USMC. It is the Arizona and tropical jungles of 1969 and 1970. I'm looking forward to reading it. I love. What do they say?
One of the things I've done in this book is I put a fold-out map in the back, so that as you read the narrative, you can walk the ground on the map as the action unfolds.
I've never seen that. And you said it is only available on your website, and it's not available. Is it available at all on
It
Amazon
looks like
Books?
it's available
Or
on Amazon.
I'm working at the end of the month. I should have an Amazon sale on Amazon. See,
Okay.
Amazon gets all the money if
Right.
you do everything through them. I mean,
Right.
I'm only getting about $7 out of this book, but that's okay. My first objective in writing this book is for posterity and for my legacy to my children. The second thing is what I've not seen enough of is stories that convey lessons learned to the young people of our nation who think that they want to be in the service. I talk about the travel, the adventure, the danger, and all of my books. My first book is this one. My second book will be Fury of War, and that should come out in January. It's written, it's being polished, and it's about the 1972 Easter Offensive. What you're going to see in that book, and I will send you some examples of the intel photo that I took with my own handheld camera equipment when I wasn't controlling air, naval gunfire, and artillery. I was taking intelligence photographs. Book 3 will be a completely different kind of book. It'll be when I ran the amphibious coordination of NATO in the Mediterranean out of Naples, Italy. I have a passion for Roman history, and consequently, book 3 is going to be a lot about antiquity. And finally, for book 4 will be about Into the Storm, about the first Gulf War.
Wow. Well,
And
I can't
can I
wait
ask you?
to read them.
That is
Yeah,
my
me neither.
website.
Yes,
Yes,
for those
can
of you on YouTube, we have the website up right now, which is www.heartofamarineseries.com. Go ahead, Chuck.
What caused you to start to write these books so late in life?
What do they cost?
No,
What
caused you to
caused
write
you?
these? Why start now?
Mhm.
I'm sorry, I'm having hard.
Oh, no, that's okay.
Oh,
You
what
starting writing these books so much later in your life. What caused you to start writing them now?
Well, that's a few. That's book 2.
Wow.
Oh,
Okay.
so
Those are
you've
your
been writing them
journals.
your whole life.
No, those are my diaries.
Wow.
I have 100 of them right over there on my uh, my bookcase. But what caused me? I'm 80 years old, gentlemen. I want to leave something behind.
Well, you know what, sir? This is why we have this podcast, and this is why we have you on, is because we want to give you a place to tell your story so people can forever listen to it and hear it from your own mouth, not just from your own book, but people can go get the book, the first book in the series. It's the Heart of a Marine series. The first book is called Doorsteps of Hell. The second book, not yet out, is called Fury of War. You can get it from heartofamarineseries.com. And Colonel, we'd love to have you back on, especially when your next book is ready. But you're just a fascinating person to talk to, and I'm sure you've got plenty more to share.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
And we also want to give our guests a chance to dedicate their episode. And you've told us about it ahead of time, but you want to dedicate your episode to 29 men from North Georgia University, North Georgia College, that you served with, and we will put their names on our social media. But if you could tell us a little bit about these 29 men.
These 29 North Georgia cadets, like me, went off to Vietnam, but they never came back. That was from the beginning and to the end of the war. My class, we lost 6 or 8 out of my class alone. But
wow.
every one of them made the supreme, paid the supreme cost of defending our nation.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, rest easy, brothers. We've got it from here. And, you know, as far as I'm concerned, men of my generation, you know, we were raised to respect. Maybe the men of your generation weren't, but the men of my generation were raised to stand up and respect the men who served in Vietnam just as much as we respect the men who served in World War II or in Korea. So my hat's off to you, sir, and you have my utmost respect and gratitude for your service. And I don't give a shit what anybody thinks about that war politically. I give a shit that the man I'm sitting in front of had the balls to stand up and do what his country asked him to do.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I reckon the only story I can tell you about, I was in Atlanta airport. There was somebody at the top of the damn escalator with a flag that said "baby killer." I walked right up to him. I was in full uniform, and I said, "You know, I support and defend your very right to do what you're doing. But if you don't get out of my face, I'm going to stomp a mud hole in your ass."
Because I supported and defended my right to stomp and put a boot in your ass if I need to. I love it. Well, sir, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining us. We appreciate it, and we will. I can't wait to read the book. We will reach out to you to schedule a follow up so we can discuss your next book and get more of your stories. Because as far as I'm concerned, we can get as much of your story down and out there for people to hear, because you are a wealth of information and a hilarious guest to boot, because lots of people can tell stories, but not people can tell them as well as you can, sir.
Well, thank you for that. And as I promised you, once we close down, I'll turn to my big machine behind me and I will send you those 3 articles, and I'll send you some sample aerial intel photos from book 2.
Awesome. We will tease those on our social media, and we appreciate it. Chuck, do you have anything for us?
I do. First, I want to say, Lieutenant Colonel Williams, thank you so much for coming on. You are a true American hero, and really, your life is wild. It's amazing. It's crazy. I cannot wait to read this book. I cannot wait, and that's amazing. And I want to say thank you all for today for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's podcast, please make sure you follow us on our Instagram at war_stories_official and our Facebook at War Stories Podcast. If you already following, we'd really appreciate it if you could share our posts and help spread the word. You can also check us out in the link in our bio on both platforms to find all of our social media, our links, and our website. Our podcast is available on all major streaming platforms, including YouTube. If you'd like to support us, head over to our website at www.warstoriesofficial.com. Grab some gear. We still have some Whoopie hoodies, shirts, patches, and stickers in stock. And then stay tuned for what's coming next.
Yes.
If you have a story to tell, or you know someone who does, we're always looking for law enforcement, corrections officers, dispatchers, firefighters, medics, and veterans to feature on the show. If you're interested, email us at booking.warstories@gmail.com. Again, that is booking.warstories@gmail.com. And I can get you booked and share your story. We'd love to hear from you. And if you know someone who would be a great fit, please send them our way. Thank you again. And thanks for the support. Stay safe.
That's right. And once again, thank you, Lieutenant Colonel Tom Williams, for being on the show. And to the rest of our audience, until next episode, come home with your shield or on it.